Now in this car, I've got 12 Zerk fittings that you got to get. So there's 3 there, then 3 there, 3 there, and then 3 over there. Get all 3 of those. I use the, I forget what that stuff called. I think it's a Lucas high-tech workspace. I don't put a super ton of, pumps into it. Just 1 or 2, since I do this every oil change. And that keeps it nice and good. So that way you're not just, breaking seals or whatnot. And obviously you can see that I use the Moog type of connectors on this because this is a driver. This is something that I do drive. And I want the best in it, so that way it's nice and safe. You can see there's the 75 style disc brake setup that I'm running. And and then the type of oil filter that I use is, I've done it on my other videos, but I had a lot less views at the time. Our people, it was a 5-1806. Those are basically an anti-siphon style. And I will move back here on my back so that way I can show you what I got going on here. Sorry this is close, but this is what I got because the Desert Darts on lift. Basically I have a 2 into 1. Those are both equal length. Then it goes in, then I put a nice band clamp here, and then I run it on down, and I'm running a, I think that's a hooker style. Yeah, it's a hooker max flow, and then I have a resonator at the tip. I'll go over that to kind of keep the drone down. And I forgot to show you, this is my resonator that goes on the very end. And then I made sure that this extended past the bumper slightly at an angle, so that way the sound doesn't basically come back from the bumper. The sound waves are going out and down, going into the direction of the wind, and this dramatically helped with drone. I put a band clamp on this one right here, so that way it's got a little bit of adjustability, because this thing, as it gets hot and cold, it will flex. And since this thing doesn't have subframe connectors on it, I don't want to make it too rigid, so this is the one flexible joint in it. What I did here is, people were asking, this is my transmission. I didn't like the style of plastic, little joints that were in this, so I just used rod link connectors, and it makes for a pretty rigid system. There's very, very little play in this, but as far as that goes, but as far as this goes, up here I have a bronze bushing inside of it, and then on the other side I put a bronze bushing inside of it also, but it's got a Heim joint in it, so that allows it to flex, but there is very little play in this. So that way it's a positive feel. As far as connectors, that's my connector in the front, there's my connector in the back, and then right here, this is my lockup for my converter. So that's for my speed for the B&M system. That way I can lock it up. Comes right off the shaft. Sorry that I'm wiggling around, but I'm trying to roll around. That is my actual lockup. That comes out right there. That's been drilled and tapped at 1/8 inch. That is just your basic style of trans brake pass through. And then this thing goes into there just with your basic style of deal like that. And yeah, it's got a little drip on it, but who cares? It's a driver. This is not a show car. So it's going to have a little bit of moisture here and there just because it is what it is. And also too, I put grease in the shaft here because I do drive it so much, and there is kind of a, it kind of does have that high kink right there. I just didn't want to have it come down and get close to this exhaust. So that's why I put it up on top of that. Normally they don't do that kind of thing. So, and plus I added this extra, 7 inches to it. So it does have a kink in it. So, and then I run all the hoses and everything on that side of the actual shaft. Those 2 lines go up, and then they go to the cooler. Somebody the other day was asking me, how did I do my oil filter for my transmission? Well, these are the 2 bolts there and there that for your battery tray, and then ran a hole basically right there. And these ones, this one is the in, that is the out. So it goes through this first, then through the cooler, and then back to the transmission. So it's a pretty simple deal. Okay, so today we're going to be getting this thing ready for drag week, and I'm going to be doing some fluid changes. This is a 7 1/4, 276 gear right there. I left the tag on it so everyone could see it. And changing the fluid, instead of taking this off every single time, what I did is I installed a drain plug in these things. It's really bitchin'. One time when you take this thing off, all I did is I drilled and tapped that for, I believe it was eighth inch pipe thread, NPT. And so then that way you could just take that out, and these things hold less than, well, just over a quart of fluid. So there is very little fluid in these. So I change this every single time that I do the transmission. So it's, you know, it's cheap insurance because I like this rear end and I want to keep it rolling. So there's that. I will get this thing on a stand and we'll get it rolling. This will be one of the first times you're ever going to see me doing, I'm not going to videotape me doing engine oil changes or anything, but I just want to show you how this works. So the first thing that I do is I'm just going to make sure that this thing, first off, will come loose. Okay, yes, so it'll come loose. It's pipe thread. It doesn't have to be super tight. Then this thing here, you know, if it comes loose, oh, there we go. Yep. So, yeah. And I can see a little bit of metal in it, but it is what it is. And this thing's never been rebuilt, and it's probably got umpteen miles on it. Who knows? Because this was out of a wrecking yard. I took the cover off when I got it, and I didn't see any tons of glitter in it. But then again, this thing did have a bearing that was going completely sideways in it. So yeah, who knows? So I'm going to let that drain, and then we'll come back to you. On my way to go get some new shoes. They don't like dealing with the hubcaps, so I pop them off. So I got new shoes. The Michelins that I had a love affair with, they discontinued in the 205 70 R15, so I went with the General Ultimax RT 43. It has good wet weather. That's what I was looking for, because here where I live, it's 55 inches a year. When we finally move to Olive Branch, I will be driving this car quite a bit more. I just don't want to drive it into to Memphis. So whenever that happens, I always check torque on these. That's why I take the hubcaps off myself and I don't put them back on. So yeah, that way I can just go around and check. I do drive this with my family in here. In fact, we're going out for a drive today. So I'm going to check these real quick and go from there. Alrighty. Whenever you get new shoes put on your car, you always check. I asked them for 40 pounds. They set them at 32. I asked them to set these things at about 85 to 80 foot-pounds. Right now it's set at 90. Let's get this set at, I'm going to show you where they're set at. Let's go to 80, right here, right? 80, now watch. That one was a little loose. I had to move it slightly. And, there we go. So that's why I always check. I always go around and check every single one of them just to make sure that they're all the same. Anyways, it's a good idea.